first of all, it's hierarchical in the quantitative sense of people at the top making decisions, people at the top of the pyramid making decisions about the little peons below, for the most part, benefit them, benefit the elite. And in order to resist that, it is going to take a lot of carefulness about what we say, what our propositions are, the ways in which we're going to speak to people. And when you start to gather people outside of the academy, which I believe is a really, really good resource, and we can definitely make use of it, but when you want to go beyond that,
the academy,
and I mean academies like universities.
okay.
If we want a community that is dialoguing on similar things that they might, but in a new way, and also in a way that hasn't been done before on global or international levels, and allowing the opportunity for free education and certainly free information as much as possible, it starts to pose a threat to people who exist to control. I mean, that's just the way that it goes. So I don't know. We need to. That's an issue. I feel, and I don't know if you guys agree with that, or what. What do you want to say on it?
Well, like about institutions as a threat, or seeing us as a threat, what we're doing.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Just because I feel like the role of the institution is to keep people boxed in a little bit, and once you start to break out of molds, and especially on a large scale, that becomes that people want to stop. I feel maybe that's just my point of view, but looking at history, it seems like that's the case.
Well, I mean, in ancient. Sorry, what are you gonna say?
Well, institutions are sort of like egos in and of themselves. They're almost like organisms composed of groups of individuals, just like we're composed of groups of cells. So anytime that you introduce an idea into the cells that will disband the institution, then of course they're all like, the institution's going to fight to preserve itself the way that any animal will fight to preserve itself.
Yeah, I don't want to say that there's an intentional antagonistic element, but more like what you were saying, that they want to self-preserve themselves, that they want to, they're self-interested.
I mean,
do you think most of the ideas out there are like just new institutions, so like a different animal but same body plan, or are we shifting into?
I think we're transitioning.
Where it's totally different.
I mean, what this is like the individual transformation where we go from ego to something beyond ego. There's a new way of organization of this mind or organism, and I think what we're looking for are ways to manifest some kind of organization beyond the erected institution. We want something more fluid, more dynamic, that acts more like a transformed individual who has kind of at least been able to step out of themselves a little bit. So we're really looking for whole new ways to organize ourselves individually and collectively. So.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that what happens, or even a school of thought, is that there's a crystallization. There's an effect of, there's like a stone-like effect, in a sense. It ceases to become dynamic. It ceases to live. It ceases to be water, in a sense. I mean, flowing, ability to change forms when dynamic, in that sense. And that's what is needed for a variety of reasons. The world that we live in basically forces us into that position, in a sense, with the amount of global love that we would have to do in order to people together in new ways. And again, not necessarily something that the belief systems or whatever, or the philosophies, we're not saying there has to be at all levels, but there at least has to be enough to allow love to flourish a little more. I mean, an honest understanding, just a very basic humane response. Do you guys know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's simple in a sense.
I called it, like, it was, I think I had the same idea, and I did a video, and it was literally, if we just appreciated everything, it would fix things. Because when you appreciate something, you respect it, you give it space, you take care of it. So that goes from other humans, other cultures, the environment, all of that. Like when we do anything, when we make a bunch of car batteries and then just throw them in a field, it's saying that we appreciate the car batteries more than the field. Or when we go over there and when we kill a bunch of people, we appreciate more, or when we say that a religion's wrong, it's from lack of appreciation of their viewpoint. And or you can call it love, but it's, and that's the thing that I'm like just worried about, is because there's so many ideologies out there that are based on not appreciating other things, like that Silver Soul guy, the mystical Christian, totally like that path. I appreciate it, but other Christians besides him, I can see that it's their path and it does good things for them. But the thing that I think is like just insidious and could potentially cause a stillbirth of this whole movement is their inability to appreciate what other people do. Or the people that, and then you can take that idea to the environment, which is the other crisis that we've had. Do people appreciate their jet skis more than the ability of us to feed everyone? I don't. That's the.
It's going to take a lot, and it gets down to value systems, essentially, like you said. What do we value more? Right now, the value systems are such that, it's not humane. We basically have very little value systems that correspond to humane action. We tend to care more about material goods and blah, 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 and so forth and so on.
Profit.
So I don't think that it will be large at first. I think this type of thing has to start out small, obviously, in grassroots type roots. And it's not always going to incorporate the ideologies or the religions or whomsoever isn't able to appreciate and have tolerance, in a sense. I think there does have to be a selectiveness, not an eliteness, but a striving for quality amongst the individuals that involve themselves, and those individuals leading as examples of potentials. And where do you go from there? What happens when you do start to have international dialogues, for instance, which we really want to aim to do at some point? Especially what Greg is doing at Inheriting Earth, and the other guy, Guido. They're really attempting to stage those global communications and laying the ground and the foundation for those to happen. And it does get into the question of what occurs when you start having that kind of backlash of whatever ideologies that aren't tolerant. What to do about them? How to handle it.
Well, that's the tricky part that nobody seems to know how to do, except not tolerate violence, show compassion.
It's just the dilemma of how do you not tolerate violence, but other than forcefully forcing them to not be.
Yeah.
It's.